Welcome to the video on HTML and CSS lists to define unordered and ordered lists and then stylize them. In this lesson, we're going to go ahead and cover how to create a list, whether it's a bulleted list unordered or a numbered list ordered, and then how to style it and change the way that it looks. So lists in HTML can be created using two tags, the UL tag for an unordered list and an OL tag for an ordered list. A UL tag has bullet points, and you can change the way those bullet points look. You can even apply pictures. And ordered lists have numbers or Roman numerals or letters A, B, C in order. You want to make sure you're using the right type of list dependent on what you are trying to convey to the reader. Unordered lists are things that don't have an order, and they can be listed in any way. Ordered lists usually are things that have a specific order or need to be a specific set of steps, etc. So our page currently looks like this. You're going to want to open up your code pen that we made in the previous lesson for CSS floating. And we're going to go ahead and add two lists. We're going to actually turn the three cities on the left into a list to stylize them. And we're going to add a list down here about London and some areas you can go to in London to practice our two types of lists. When you define a list, you have to first use a container tag to say this is where the list starts and this is where the list ends. The OL tag is used to create an ordered list, and you can see that it appears above and at the end of the list, opening and closing where the list exists, telling the internet browser this is where I want the bullets to be. To then create bullets or list items, you have to specify that each list item begins and ends so that the computer knows how many bullets to put in and where do those lines end. So if I want to turn London, Paris, and Tokyo into a list, they each have to be in their own LI so that the computer knows that they need to do a break and then a new bullet for it. So let's go ahead and create an ordered list inside of our page. So I'm going to go to my code pen, and we're going to turn London, Paris, and Tokyo into an ordered list. To do that, I'm going to go ahead up to the nav, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to bring an ordered list in, so an OL tag. I'm then going to go to the end after Tokyo, and I'm going to close that OL tag so that it opens and closes. These three items will be list items within that list, so I want to make sure they're contained within the opening and closing of that ordered list tag. You can see nothing really happens because we haven't defined any list items yet. So we're going to go ahead and define some list items in here. So we're going to make London be a list item, LI, and then at the end of the word London, I'm going to close that. And you can see that the second I do that, the number 1 pops up, and then when I close it, Paris automatically breaks to the next line. I'm going to do the same thing for each one of the different list items here. And you can see that as you do this, CodePen is also indenting them because they are part of this OL list. And once you have all three as a list item, you can see it says 1, 2, 3, and you have now adjusted what that looks like. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to practice making an unordered list. So instead of using the OL tag, this time we're going to use the UL tag. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go down into our article, and after the paragraph right here, we're going to create a list. So I'm going to go at the end of this paragraph tag, and I'm going to create an unordered list this time. So I'm going to open and close my unordered list. Inside of there, we're going to create a list item that says Big Ben. And you'll see that a bullet will appear instead of a number because we're using an unordered list instead of an ordered list. And then I'm going to add another one for Tower of London. Another for London Eye. Another for Buckingham Palace, and a last one for Tower Bridge. And you can see as you add those, they're creating bullets down here at the bottom of your page in this unordered list. So now that you've created an ordered list and an unordered list, you can now stylize them. So stylizing a list is where you change the look of that icon. Are you changing it in an unordered list to like a circle or a square for the bullet? Or are you changing it in an ordered list to something like upper Roman or lower alpha? So what we can do is we can go into our CSS and stylize those. You can see you call upon the list and then just do a list style type property and then tell it the value. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go over into our CSS on the right here. I'm going to go ahead and collapse my JavaScript, and I am going to call upon my ordered list. I can then do list style type, and I can choose something like lower alpha. When I choose lower alpha, you'll see that it'll go ABC in lower alphabetic form. So you have that as an option as well. Same thing with a UL. I can stylize a UL as square. And you'll see that instead of it being circles, they are now square and do not have corners. So after stylizing a list, you can also remove a style while keeping all of the list options. So if I want London, Paris, and Tokyo to be listed here, I can actually change a list style type to none, and it will allow me to just have the list features of each one on its own line operating separately without the bullet or marker for that list item. So let's go ahead and remove that style. So I want to see if you can go remove it on your own first. So if you want to pause here, go adjust your London, Paris, and Tokyo list to remove the style. To remove the style, I'm just going to go to OL list, and instead of lower alpha right here in the CSS, I'm going to go ahead and change that to none. When you change it to none, you can see all three are still listed. However, they no longer have the markers off to the left. This is really useful, especially when you're making navigations like this, because you can take a navigation, organize it in ordered list items, and then you can actually stylize each item. You can make them look like buttons or boxes or things that people can click on, and that's really useful for being able to organize your information. This is going to be seen commonly as we continue to move through our coding and creating websites, that lists are used to create navigations. We can also create a list image style. So on unordered lists where there's a bullet, we can change that to an image. And it's really simple. Instead of a list style type, we do a list style image. And then we link to a URL online. And a URL online is going to be usually on your computer or something you upload from your computer to the web server where you're telling it where to locate the file. In this case, we're going to use one that's online already, and they've used sqpurple.gif in this example, and you can see they put quotation marks as well as parentheses around it, because what they're saying is I've got a list style image, but it's equal to a URL of whatever's in the parentheses, and those quotation marks help it know where the URL starts and stops. .gif is the file type of this image, and we're going to go ahead and link into a file that has a file type of .ico. So you have lots of different file types: PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs, ICOs. We talked about these before. It's important that you make sure that that is included and spelled correctly so it can access it. So we're going to go ahead and do a list style image, and we're going to go to this website right here. As our list style image. This is also inside the document that's provided on our class that you can just copy and paste the URL from there, or you can come back to this point and paste it in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and adjust this. Instead of list style type, we're going to do list style image for our UL. And instead of square, I'm going to type URL, open parentheses, and you'll see that it'll automatically close my parentheses in CodePen. Open quote or apostrophe, because it's not actually a quotation mark, it's an apostrophe in this case. And that's where I'm going to bring in my link. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that into here. And you can see that once I put that link in there, I now have a little tower Big Ben image appearing on my screen for my bullet. And that's how you can create lists inside of HTML and CSS and style them.